I remember one day my stepson walked down the driveway and I could see that smoke coming out of his ears.
Oh, wow.
And he walked up and he bashed the letterbox. He ripped a branch off the tree. He kicked a bunch of gravel up at the door, and then he stomped the door open with his foot, and it opened that hard that the handle went through the plaster wall.
Wow.
Then he drop kicked his school bag into the other plaster wall and put a crack in it that's still there today. And, you know, because I'd done all that EFT, I just wasn't triggered at all.
Welcome, Russell. After 30 years, here we are, NLP, EFT, and Alpha Repatterning. Hit us with your best shot.
That's great. It's been so long since we caught up at that Anthony Robbins event. Gee, nearly 30 years ago now. Wow. So lots been happening in that time. And yeah, my passion now is this work with Alpha Repatterning, really helping people to move forward in a new, quicker, more powerful way.
Tell us a bit about it.
Okay, well, Alpha Repatterning allows us to access and eliminate our unconscious blocks to success. Most people will have some areas of their life where things go relatively easy, yet most of us have some areas where things are a bit of a struggle. You know, maybe our career works well, but relationships are difficult, or maybe it's the other way around. So the reason we have those problems is because of early imprinting in our childhood. And the challenge is most people don't remember where that stuff came from. So I started off, well, for me personally, it was doing NLP that made the biggest change for me in the early days. And that first probably 6 to 10 sessions with an NLP trainer really turned my life around. And then when I trained to be an NLP practitioner and later an NLP trainer, I was getting great results with people, but I knew there was something more that could be done. So I was always on the lookout for new modalities, new techniques. And in 2004, I was introduced to EFT. Now, I resisted looking at it because it just seemed so different to anything I'd done before. You know, this idea that you can tap on some acupressure points and stress and physical pain melt away. Yeah, right. I guess I was the ultimate skeptic. So eventually I attended a workshop, partly out of curiosity, because if it did work half as well as the claims, I needed to have that tool. But also I was there kind of to prove it didn't work, so that I could shut those people up that kept saying, Russell, you got to learn this EFT stuff. So I was the guy sitting in the back of the room with my arms crossed and my legs crossed and my eyes crossed. Well, I don't know about my eyes, but you get the picture. And we started doing this crazy tapping. And I remember the guy said to me, think about something that you have an emotional charge on. And that was easy. You know, I had a 15-year-old stepson, and sometime earlier we'd had an argument. And I can't even remember what the argument was about, but he went out and slammed the door that hard that the window next to it shattered, and I was ropeable. Yeah, you can imagine there was steam coming out of my ears. Well, as soon as I'm in the workshop, as soon as I thought about that, I felt my neck tense, my chest went tight, my jaw went tight, my fist began to clench. And then this guy said, do this funny tapping stuff, and probably 4, 5, 6 minutes later, I was laughing about it. I mean, when you think about it, it's pretty funny. And what was beautiful about that is I then applied EFT to a whole load of issues that I had with my 2 stepsons. And that was the last time we'd ever had a conflict.
Wow.
And I remember one day when the youngest came home, he was about 15 then, and 15 is that age where kids' behaviors are such that parents want to push them out, because in older times, those hormones were our signal to get out and start our own family or our own tribe. So I remember one day my stepson walked down the driveway and I could see that smoke coming out of his ears.
Oh, wow.
And he walked up and he bashed the letterbox. He ripped a branch off the tree. He kicked a bunch of gravel up at the door, and then he stomped the door open with his foot, and it opened that hard that the handle went through the plaster wall.
Wow.
Then he drop kicked his school bag into the other plaster wall and put a crack in it that's still there today. And, you know, because I'd done all that EFT, I just wasn't triggered at all.
Mm.
And I said to him, man, says, someone really got up your nose. He said, yeah, that bloody teacher, that fucking asshole bitch, he was furious.
Mm.
He said, she wouldn't let me go to the toilet. I said, she wouldn't let you go to the toilet. He said, yeah. I got up to go to the toilet and she said, get back in your seat. And I said, no. She said, get back in your seat now. And I said, no. She said, get back in your seat now or I'll fail you. And I said, please fail me. Just get off my fucking back. And then I went to the toilet. I said, wow, that was really telling her. He said, yeah. He said, I suppose I could have told her I was going to the toilet.
Classic.
I cracked up laughing. I said, yeah, that would have probably worked. And we both had a laugh about it. He grabbed a carrot out of the fridge and all was cool.
Mm.
Now, if I'd have done normal then, I'd have been yelling at him for the damage, yelling at him for swearing. And what would the results of that been? Well, he would have probably smashed a few more doors and taken it out on his younger sister or the dog or whatever.
Yeah, more escalation. Yeah, it's interesting. Like you say about being a skeptic. When you invited me to do EFT 1 and 2, you know, I thought, bit of fun. I'll come along, right? And I guess I even looked into NLP the same way, and I looked into Reiki the same way. And as I'm starting to investigate evidence-based modalities such as exercise physiology, myotherapy, but I'm looking at alternative stuff, homeopathy and naturopathy and organics and Chinese medicine, I'm finding there is some serious solutions to people's problems. And in the health arena for us, for FKC Health, the mental game is huge because people, and I don't care what they do in the fridge or what exercise they do. If they don't have the right mindset and they don't have the right trauma eliminated, their whole lives are skewed and their health's never going to happen. They need a clear head for health. And you've worked in the area of relationship counselling, you've worked in the area of time line therapy and working with corporates and success people and all sorts of blockages and emotions. So I guess, as I've said in previous interviews about Carl Jung saying you learn all your modalities and your techniques, and when you're face-to-face with a client, you sort of forget them all. But you've got a huge intuitive tool bag to reach into where you've hybrided and synthesized so many modalities, including Alpha Repatterning, which is your branding of how you've organized these syntheses. So tell us about some of your interesting clients. So what do they come and see you for?
Well, it varies so much because this is fascinating because people have the idea that you have to particularly specialize in different things. You know, it's going to get to the point where I get a sore thumb and I go to the doctor. He says, no, I'm a little pinky specialist. I can't work with you.
Yep.
And yet, you know, our limiting beliefs and emotional patterns really, that and our values color our whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And that can affect every area. So in my own life, it's made the biggest difference in physical pain. As I mentioned before, I've had a few serious car accidents and I was needing regular painkillers and regular physiotherapy and chiropractic and osteopathy just to keep moving. Mm-hmm. A lot of challenges in relationships and this, I don't know if anyone else is familiar with this, but business that would go up and crash, up and crash, up and crash. And, you know, that was the pattern of my life. And so I spent many years doing conventional counseling, trying to get some work. And that helped to a point. It gave me some cognitive awareness, but it didn't change the way I felt. And it didn't change the way I behaved, how I responded.
Mm.
So it was finding NLP initially made the biggest difference. And when I was introduced to EFT, that really blew me away. But as you're probably aware, once you've been doing NLP for a while, you can't not do NLP.
That's right. It becomes unconscious competence. It becomes a
Yeah.
part of a way of your life to deal with things, because I think a lot of people, I think if you sum up all the work in the mental space, it can be one giant reframe, because it's the way people contextualize their belief around what happened or what is happening or what could happen that shapes their fears, phobias, and their ambitions. But once that shifts and it's flexible and it can be moved to a safe or better place, then that person's empowered to move forward. So it's contextual shifts. So what inspired you to do this work?
Well, look, I've always had a passion for helping people. I was the eldest of 5 kids, and I got a lot of joy out of encouraging my brothers and sisters and helping them with stuff. And I guess that's what got me to be a scuba instructor in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
But when so many areas of my life wasn't working, and then when I was introduced to NLP, I finally found a tool that worked. I just had to get out of that corporate scene and start doing this to help people. So the real buzz for this is just seeing someone get massive changes, especially those that have tried everything. I mean, no one's tried everything, but you know what I mean. People, so many of my clients come in and say, I've tried everything, nothing works. A few times I've had people say, you're my last chance, Russell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say, yeah, now you're really in trouble. But really though, it's being able to make that difference for people when nothing else really has.
Yeah, look, that's profound, because in the same boat, I was counseling a whole family there for a while, and I've been dealing with this guy for quite a few years. And I went home one day just devastated for the pain he was in that I couldn't restore. And that's what took me to the door of NLP 30 years ago. And I went and said, I've got to get something more than what I've got to deal with this. And I was able to turn his life around in a very short space of time. His wife comes running out and said, what did you just do to blah, blah, you know? I said, what? Sorry. She said, who is he? I said, why? And she said, he's actually apologized. He's being nice, because he had a real anger issue, right? And
Yeah.
he grabbed me like this. And I said, why are you so bleep, bleep angry? And he said, because I love you. And all of a sudden, it just went firing off everywhere. And he went inside and sorted it out. And that did change things. And that's when I realized, oh my God, this shit works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Tell us a little bit about what happened with that car accident, you know, that you told me before. You know, what happened?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting one, because I'd told that story hundreds, if not thousands of times. And I thought here I dealt with it, but I was still 20 years later, still carrying a lot of pain from that accident. And so what I didn't realize, like, you could see all the things in the x-rays that weren't right. So I thought, well, it's just a physical thing. But it's interesting, you know, when you, and there was a doctor in Melbourne some years ago, I've got to find his name, who did some research comparing, what he did was he got a whole load of x-rays of people that had spinal injuries or spinal pain, and he graded them from best to worst. And there was almost zero correlation between how bad the x-rays were and how bad the person's pain was.
Yeah.
And we've all had evidence of that when we're feeling achy or not good, and then something exciting happens and it takes our mind off us and we forget about it. And then we try to go to sleep at night, and then we're aware of all those pains. So I started looking for answers to that, and all the emotional things, the relationship issues that just kept recurring. And now I've gone off the track. What was the question again?
It's okay. Well, before you were sharing with me the slow motion impact of all the things that happened in that car accident, and I thought, wow,
yes,
something that people should hear about. That, you know, an event may happen in a split second, but as it plays out, it's a small movie. And I just thought that was really cool that you could relate that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let me frame that with this. What I found of all the NLP tools, what got the most bang for the buck for me and for most of my clients was timeline therapy. Because with timeline therapy, we get into a light trance, we ask the unconscious mind to take us back to the root cause of the event, and then we reframe it, we get a learning from it, and we can release the emotions and the limiting beliefs around it. What I was finding, however, is sometimes I and my clients would have to go back to the same event several times. So the premise of timeline therapy is that once you get the learning from the event, you can let go of all the emotion on it. But a lot of events that appear to be an instantaneous event are actually a whole string of events. So that car accident, for example, you think it's a 1 second event, crossing the road 1 minute and strawberry jam on the ground the next minute. But when I looked at it, there was guilt because I was hitchhiking, which is illegal. There was the shock when I realized the car was on the wrong side of the road heading towards me. So it wasn't the direction I was expecting a car to come from. There was something going on that made me push my sister out of the way, which pushed me more in the way. There was the initial impact. There was flying up in the air and hitting the windscreen and taking off the side mirror of the car with my face. There was waking up on the ground unconscious. There was a well-meaning bystander giving me some brandy. And if anyone's, I had a whole bunch of internal injuries. My teeth were all smashed up. My lips and mouth was all cut up. The worst thing you do in that kind of case is give someone brandy. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, unless your intention is homicide, but and we haven't even talked about the ambulance trip and all the drama that happened in hospital and the rehabilitation process. That was huge. So even though I'd done some therapy on it and I discussed it and I talked about it to anyone who would listen for the longest time, and I guess we all know people like that who have some problem, something going on, and they have to talk about it, but they never change the way they feel about it. And that was me. And so I realized that these events that we're going back to resolve with timeline therapy weren't as simple as one little bang.
No.
There was actually, even if it's an instantaneous event, there might be 10, 20 or 30 different pieces or aspects to that. And in many cases, each of these aspects has to be dealt with separately to thoroughly resolve it. So with Alpha Repatterning, usually, and there's different ways of doing it, but usually we start with a goal in mind. So someone will come up and say, look, I've got these anger issues or abandonment issues in my relationship, or I want to move my business to the next level, or I'm trying to get this promotion at work, or I just can't sleep at night, or I want to quit smoking, whatever it is. We start with the goal. We find out about how people will feel when they have that goal, and then how they feel now without that. And that really gets you to the core. So for example, let's say someone wants to double their income.
Yep.
You ask them, how will you feel when you double your income? Or how will you feel when you're in that relationship with your ideal partner? And they might say, I feel proud, I feel happy, I feel excited, whatever it is. And then you ask them, well, if you don't have that, how do you feel now? I feel sad, or I feel lost, or I feel hurt, or I feel anxious or worried or stressed, whatever it is. And then we get them into a light hypnotic trance, just that kind of relaxed state. And I don't know if you've ever been aware of this, but have you ever tried to look something like you've misplaced your wallet or your car keys or your phone or something? You're going bonkers looking for it, and then you just give in and stop looking. Then you pick up your jumper and there it is under there. So our unconscious mind knew it was under our jumper all along, but our conscious mind was trying logically to analyze it and was ignoring what was going on in the unconscious.
Yeah.
And that's how most of us live our life. We have all this huge wealth of information and of course, a whole lot of malware, of bad programming. And we need to get into that state so that we can access that stuff. So people go back to the root cause of the problem, which is preventing them from achieving the goal they're after.
Got it.
Now, this is amazing because so often it goes to events that they had no idea could be possibly connected. The time they got a spanking for not doing their homework, or the time they got lost at school, or in the shopping center, or the first day of school, or maybe even something that happened at birth or even in the womb, whatever.
A lot
So
of this is the first 7 years, isn't it?
exactly. And there's that lovely old saying, show me the boy of 7 and I'll show you the man. Of course, it equally applies to women. So most of who we are is in place by the age of 7.
And that's where the metronome starts ticking. It happened, and then why is this bad relationship in this person? Now it's in this person, and it just keeps repeating itself. And the same demons show up in a different body or a different hairdo or a different complexion.
Exactly.
It keeps coming until you say, what is it about me that is attracting this? And it's almost like it's a synthesis between other and self that has to play out this psychodrama this way.
Yeah, this is really fascinating. And this was one of my big areas of awakening. After my second marriage went south, and I'd had a number of other relationships too, and I recognized there was a pattern. If someone totally loved and adored me, I'd either leave or do something dumb to make them leave. And if someone had all the right makeup to push all my buttons and leave me feeling sad and hopeless and rejected and unloved, I'd do everything I could to be with them, even marry them and have kids with them. Now that's not the life strategy I recommend for anyone. But if you want really accelerated personal growth, that's one of the approaches that'll really push you into it.
Classic stuff. I mean, it's great when you get into mature years. It's not a laughing matter because it hurts and it's serious and it's painful and it's devastating. But you get to a place where you can really have a belly laugh about it. You say, oh my God. Maybe that's why Buddha laughed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I can relate to the things you're saying. It's quite powerful.
Yeah, there's a funny thing that reminded me of. A couple of years ago, I went to a high school reunion, and I was about to meet a group of people that I hadn't seen for over 35 years. And as I was driving there, I began to think of 3 of the guys I knew from school. And I remembered what they were like when they were 17. And then I kind of imagined, what would they be doing now? One was a quite shy introvert who I don't think I ever heard him speak in the whole time I was at school with him.
Wow.
The other was a very smart math science type guy who was very confident and you could see he had a real drive for success because he liked to win at whatever he did. Another was a guy that really had a strong drive, but he was not so much school smart. He didn't get the highest grades. He didn't even do that well in PE, but he really gave everything a go. So he really had that drive. And I thought to the first one, I thought he's shy, he's introverted, he's very good at the analytical stuff. Now, these days, he'd probably get a job in IT, but 35, 40 years ago, there was no such thing as an IT industry. So I imagined him as an engineer in a council. The second guy, I thought, well, he's probably also be an engineer. He had that analytical side really strong, but he also had a lot more drive. He'll be where there's more money. So I imagined him being an engineer either in major construction or mining. And the third guy, I thought, he's got a real drive for success, but he's probably not going to go to uni. But he's good with people. He was a great communicator, and just about everybody I spoke to, well, with one exception, but most people really liked him. So I thought, okay, I imagine their career. The first guy is now working as a counsellor, and he started as an engineer and worked up. The The second guy has just retired from a successful career as an engineer in the mining industry and moved from engineering to management. And the third guy, and I thought he's going to be in sales. It'll either be used cars or real estate. And he's got a successful real estate business. So each of them, I predicted their career and marital status because of what I knew from them when they were 17. So most of us, even from the age of 7, we're on a set of train tracks. And unless we really do something to shift, we're going to end up where we're headed.
Wow. That's pretty profound. Just to the viewers out there, we're talking to Russell Cunningham, and Russell is the owner of Self-Development, and he's been training for over 27 years now in professional development and relationship counselling and success coaching. And yeah, so that's who Russell is. And I'm really excited to have him on the channel today to talk about these things. So tell me, Russell, what is your greatest challenge? What has been your greatest challenge?
I guess there's been a few. Initially, my greatest challenge was the physical problems from a couple of serious car accidents. But probably the biggest thing for me all up was relationships, because I realized I kept attracting the same problem over and over again. Mm-hmm. And I realized there was a common denominator, so I guess that's why a very large percentage of the work I do is working with people with relationship issues, helping people attract their ideal partner, or resolve the issues in the relationship they're in. No, I guess one of the challenges with that, though, is that so many people, particularly men, don't seek help until it's too late.
Yeah.
And you speak to guys and they'll say, I don't know what happened. Everything was great. And then she up and left. And you speak to his ex-partner or partner, and she says, I don't know. He just won't listen. I've been telling him for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, one of it that went down for me, and I've now seen how important it is sometimes when you've got personal low self-esteem and someone pays you a nice compliment, you go, oh, that's not true, or you deny the compliment. And I remember my ex-wife saying to me, why, if you give me flowers, I put them in a vase, but if I give you a flower, you trample it on the ground. And I said, and she goes, I just paid you a sincere compliment and you just threw it away.
Yeah.
And it wasn't till much later how I realized how impactful that was, because in giving you the compliment and you receiving it and being blessed, that's love, that's connection.
Absolutely.
And, I was brought up in a family where my father was very aloof, and he didn't show emotion. And I think he died at 97, and 91 was the first time he told me in words that he loved me. So that was a long wait, and I know a lot of people are still waiting for that validation and that love, and they don't get it. But I see how that played out in my relationships too. And, I guess I would say in my relationships, I gave until I broke, but that was my fault. They probably didn't want me to give until I broke. They probably would have been a lot happier if I was more resistant. And I'll never forget these words. This woman said to me, who really liked me, she said, do you like honey? I said, yeah, I like honey. She said, what do you like it on? I said, I guess on toast or bicky or something. She goes, do you like it on your steak? I said, yeah, sometimes honey on the steak could work. She said, do you like it on your vegetables? And I go, where's this going? She said, well, if you put honey on everything, Freddie, it's sickly. You're too sweet.
Yeah.
And I realized all I was doing is trying to seek or buy love by that extreme gifting, that extreme subservience and caring. And people want the tension. They want the fairness, because they know that if you're giving to that level and they're receiving to that level, they get tired of the receiving.
Yes, because
Something I never knew.
there's a discomfort with that continual receiving, unless you're a narcissist. I'll go into that in a moment, but because a narcissist can just take forever,
Yeah.
and you can give to that empty well forever, and you'll never receive back what you want.
Yeah, the abyss.
But yeah, so those of us that are pleasers, and I guess that's why we're doing this kind of work, isn't it? You know, I was the eldest of 5 kids, and, you know, from the very youngest stage, I was told, you know, look after your younger brothers and sisters. And my sister and I were the spare parents for a lot of the time. The other thing is that generally those of us that are pleasers are doing that to gain love and attention, or to gain the approval of someone who cannot receive it and is unable to give it.
Yep.
So the further someone is towards the pleaser side of things, the more likely they'll attract someone closer to the narcissistic side of things. And the ideal place to be is where we have a balance, where we love and appreciate ourselves and others equally. So we can be generous and we can receive with gratitude.
To be in the position to give, there has to be a receiver. And it's like breathing. You got to breathe in, you got to breathe out. And you know, love and relationships like being on a seesaw. You know, both got to take a turn at each other. Otherwise, they say, oh, well, you don't meet my needs and all this sort of stuff. I'm not into that. I'm into the interdependence. But isn't it pleasurable to meet someone's need when it's pleasurable for you and not a duty and not an obligation? You know, there's a dance going on, and there's harmony, and there's a reciprocation. But, you know, these are the things that most blokes won't talk about. But, you know, what I've started to realize, and it's not my feminine side, it's natural to be nice, you know, like one of the greatest Bibles in the world is 2 words, you know, nice, 2 pages, be nice, 2 pages, you know, or don't be a bleep. That's 3-page Bible. But tell me, where do you see alpha repatterning going in the future?
Well, my passion really is to teach people to do it. So I'm seeing pretty close to as many people as I can at the moment, and I don't need to work till I'm 100. So I've been out running workshops in Australia and overseas, teaching EFT, and then upscaling that to the alpha repatterning. So I like people first to have a good handle on the EFT. And then what we do is, when we get people back to the core issue, instead of, as we would with timeline therapy, just ask for the learning in the hope that that releases all the emotions. And that does work. That's a great tool. But as I mentioned before, often we'd have to go back to the same event a number of times. So with alpha repatterning, we can thoroughly resolve all aspects. So I want this to really get out there so that anyone can access an alpha repatterning practitioner.
That's awesome, because we centered our model around holistic health and for evidence-based health, alternative health, even a little bit of left field stuff, so that people could see, well, from a point of view of intention, people want to get well, healed. I'll be headed up to 68 in a couple of weeks, and you're trailing behind me by a few years. You're not as old as I am.
Not that much, but yes, I'm 61, so yeah.
But I'm coming into the prime of my life. I'm really happy and I'm vibrant, and I want to interact with people my own age and plus or minus 5 or 10 years. And I'm finding, you know, a lot of people from 40, 45 up are done. They're, you know, like, they're just dragging their sorry butts through life. And I really know how much you've helped me, because you invited me to some complimentary trainings to gift me. And also, we've known each other for such a long time. We've interacted and spent a lot of time together. So I just, for the viewers, you know, to meet someone like Russell is a privilege, because Russell's experience and expanse of knowledge, he's really invested a lot of things in. He's a trainer for EFT. So a lot of people out there doing EFT have been trained by Russell. And with the NLP blanket, people, you can investigate. There's so much online about EFT and on NLP, so you can find out a little bit about it. And as far as alpha repatterning, that's yet to be documented out there in a big way. But as you said, it's a hybrid of a synthesis of these strategies. So do the results last?
Great question. What I've found with EFT alone is often we can have one session and someone's migraines have had all their life is gone, or their issues, their anxiety, whatever. But you see, EFT and NLP are relatively simple tools and techniques, but people are more complex. So first of all, to resolve something, you need tools that work at the unconscious level. Just understanding it doesn't do the work. The other thing is sometimes the drivers behind a problem are more complex.
Yeah.
If we take, often I have people coming in for those deeper relationship issues, but often people will come in because they want to quit smoking or get a handle on their drinking or their gambling or some other addictive behavior, eating. And if there's no significant unconscious stress going on and their life is on an even keel, usually one session will nail that. But if someone quits smoking for 3 days and starts again, it's because that smoking or the drinking or whatever other thing they're working on is a tool they're using to suppress their anxiety or other stresses.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those stresses are complex. So what I've found is there's often hidden benefits to smoking, or whatever it is. If it was just logical, you could show someone a bunch of pictures of people with all these horrid diseases. You could show people the statistics of them getting that. You could show how they're spending 5,000, 7,000, 12,000, whatever it is on cigarettes every year, and say, what would you rather, a holiday in Vanuatu or cancer in 5 to 10 years? That would be logic. And we all know that doesn't work.
It doesn't.
So for people, I just had earlier this year, a good friend of mine who I worked with for about 5 years passed away from cancer. He was about 10 years younger than me, fit young guy with so much going for him. Anyone younger than me is young. So, but he couldn't let go of the smoking. But that goes back to those old stresses. So what we'll do with alpha repatterning is I might start using EFT with a client to work on the current cravings for the cigarette or whatever the issue is. But then to make the results permanent, we need to track back to the core issues and resolve those. And once those core issues are resolved, it's just gone.
That's profound. Well, there you have it, viewers. Russell Cunningham from Self-Development. All his social links will be below. And if you like what you saw, please subscribe and hit the button there and ring the bell. And thank you so much for your precious time, Russell. It's been a long time coming. I think we started this conversation a couple of months ago, and we
yes.
So I really appreciate you coming on, and perhaps we'll have you back again another time.
I would love that. Thanks very much, Freddie.
Absolute pleasure.
And thanks to everyone for watching.